It's an incredible gift to donate a leftover embryo from IVF treatment to a childless couple. But the possibility of unwanted outcomes is very real. And having direct genetic children growing up in someone else's family is something many couples considering donation find too difficult to comprehend.
Lots of boats out in the water today, isn't there?
Natalie Parker knows the pitfalls of donating embryos better than most. She did the generous thing, but it all went horribly wrong. Do you feel like your child's been stolen?
It's just been taken. And back.
Natalie and her husband decided to donate their leftover embryos after Angus and Hugo were born.
Angus?
Natalie found a childless couple online who agreed to allow the kids to see each other once a year and exchange photos.
We kind of walked in with rose-coloured glasses saying, oh, this will all be great, because we had heard the good stories and how great it could be, and so that's what we wanted.
2 of Natalie's 3 leftover embryos were implanted in the recipient, but she told the IVF clinic that she'd miscarried. Then, strangely, she disappeared without asking for the last remaining embryo. Eventually, Natalie became suspicious. So you couldn't work out why, if she'd had 2 of your embryos implanted and they didn't work, why she didn't come back for this 3rd one?
She was so desperate to have a child. So then I did some digging and I went onto Facebook, looked her up on Facebook, and I was shocked to find that she had, there was a picture of her with a child who looked exactly like my youngest son, Hugo.
That means you were lied to.
Yeah. That was the worst thing. It was because I trusted her and I trusted the system.
Natalie soon learned that legally there was nothing she or the IVF clinic could do. Because a pregnancy wasn't recorded, there is no way that child can ever trace his genetic history back to Natalie. Say this child turns 18 and he's worked out that mum and dad aren't his genetic parents. Can he come and find you?
Well, there's no record of it, so not really. I mean, not unless they tell him any details.
How are you left feeling after all of this?
I feel like I've just been used, that all my, they've just used me for what they wanted and then just tossed aside.
There is a little boy out there with exactly the same genetic makeup as your 2 boys.
Yeah.
But they'll never know each other.
Yeah. And that's really sad.
Natalie says it's not about her, it's about the rights of the child. And at the moment, there is no state or federal legislation protecting them.
It's a billion-dollar industry, yet the rights of the people that are created from it seem to be their last priority.
So the law isn't keeping up with science?
No, it's not.
So a woman could come in, have the embryo transfer, say she didn't fall pregnant, and you can't check if that is true or not?
There's nothing that we can do about that.
Associate Professor Peter Illingworth is the medical director at IVF Australia. He says it's up to the parents to tell the child of their unusual genetic beginnings.
We cannot walk into every parent's living room and tell them that you have to tell your child this or you have to tell your child that.
But if you're leaving it up to the parents and they decide not to tell that child the truth, there is no way that child could then trace its genetic history. And we know the importance of a child knowing where they came from.
Through all aspects of donation, we as health professionals can only advise the parents.
So is it reckless then of your industry to be doing embryo transfers when there's nothing in place to protect that unborn child?
We consider often the serious ethical implications of embryo donation, but embryo donation provides joy and happiness to many families.
Embryo donation is rare. Just 77 babies were born last year. But for Kathy and Paul Thomas and Kobe and Dave Argall, the entire experience has only been positive. These two families have the fairy tale ending.
I hear that he sleeps at night and you don't either.
No, you don't.
They want others in their position to think of the life-changing possibilities when you give strangers the gift of children.
When they created those embryos, they did so with so much love and hope for their own family. The thought of them just sitting there going to waste, it's heartbreaking.
Oh, that is so gorgeous.
It's very overwhelming, but I think we made the right decision in who we donated to, obviously. And I just wish that other people would consider it instead of just defrosting their embryos, because there is so many people out there with empty hearts and empty arms that would love to be able to be mums and dads and unfortunately can't.
In the last few days, some good news for Melinda and Dia, who'd been given 2 weeks to decide what to do with their unused embryos. After we told IVF Australia about their case, it decided to help and will take over storage of the embryos. It means the couple will have as much time as they need to make the tough decision about what to do next.